Today is going to be a first at the Beauty Sports desk. Not only do we have a 2-time Olympian here, we have also got a fellow podcaster. Welcome to this episode of Beers with Beauties.
Doesn't matter if you got Coors, Busch, Bud Light, or a local shop's IPA. All beers are welcome at Beers and Beauties, baby. Let's go.
This is going to be a fun conversation because of all the different things that you have accomplished. But the one thing I do want to start off with you about is I feel like you have the best intro name. Anastasia Bucsis. Come on. How are you doing? Cheers, my friend.
Yeah, cheers, buddy. I like it. That's like a WWE WrestleMania intro. I love it.
You're coming out with your music on, and here she comes.
Well, with a last name like Bucsis, which is spelled Bucsis, I get a lot of like Bucsis, Bucsis, Books. So thank you for saying it correctly. And I think my parents, hopefully they don't pass away anytime soon, but whenever they do, they're going to be happy because our last name has been butchered for last. And I'm like, thank God.
Been long enough, my friend.
People are saying it correctly.
Oh my gosh. Because when you said that you'd come on the show and you were going to be in town, which is also couldn't be better. I was like, that is a fantastic sports name. Fantastic sports name. For intros for speed skating, was it just...
You know what?
Head out there or what?
So we would have like a skate up song. Mine was Wanna Be by the Spice Girls. No regrets.
Come
Never.
on.
Posh Spice for life. I should have known I was gay at like 7 years old. Took me a long time. Yeah, you know, so this is like, don't spit out your beer, but my middle name is actually Winchester as well. So Steve Armitage, the legend himself, like, and I've had the privilege of working with him for a long time, retired now, but like what a formidable career. He tried to make it like on broadcast, he'd say Anastasia Winchester Bucsis and like tried to make it a thing and it never took off. But you know what? Maybe, yeah.
You'll never bright. Guess what I am putting as the title of this episode.
There you go, yeah.
So we're going to get into so much, but I need to understand the background of your middle name. Did your parents sit you down and talk to you about it? Or did they just say, this is it, gal? Take it and run, baby.
Yeah, take it and run, baby. That's exactly what my dad would agree to, or admit to. I don't know. He just thought that was like a really strong name. And he told my mom that he only had to name the firstborn, and I'm an only child, so my mom got like the shit end of the stick, but here we are.
I love that. Yeah. So for people that may not know you, not know your background, 2-time Olympian in speed skating. Mm-hmm. That is crazy. When you're thinking about when you were like, how did you get into speed skating first and foremost?
Yeah, you know what? I honestly watched, like my first Olympic memory is from 94 Lillehammer when Anastasia Bucsis won the figure skating. And it was like I was a 4-year-old looking at Tanya Harding and Nancy Kerrigan and like that drama. I don't know. I was still too young, but I knew it was like a really hot topic, right? Oh my God, someone hit someone with a crowbar. Yeah. And then Anastasia Bucsis just comes in and wins it. And I was like, that is the most artistic, athletic, beautiful endeavor I've ever seen. And I remember like looking at our old TV, just being like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I'm 5'10". My folks were like, oh, sweetie, you're not going to have the body type probably to be successful. And that makes them sound like they're stage parents. They're not at all. But they kind of compromised and they were like, we're going to like put you in skating, but like learn how to speed skate first. Because I'm from Calgary and they knew we had the best. Yeah, the oval is just unbelievable. Changed the sport forever, right?
Right.
And I just didn't really quit. I was really lucky. I was born in like kind of a golden age of Alberta speed skating and had good friends. I enjoyed racing. A lot of people in that sport, unfortunately, don't like racing. Like they like the training of it and then they like kind of choke when the gun goes off. And I was the exact opposite where I'd be like, I don't want to train. Yeah.
Get me out there.
Yeah.
Just want to race.
Let's go.
Because it is interesting. Like you say, you're talking about figure skating, but normally people go figure skating. Okay, well, you don't want to do that. Go to hockey. right? The transition to go from figure skating to speed skating seems interesting. And your parents didn't speed skate?
No. And I think they just, for whatever reason, they wanted to put me in an individual sport, because I've thought that too. Like, and I have so many friends that play hockey. I'm like, oh, that would have been a fun fit. But yeah, they kind of just threw me out there, and I wasn't born with 2 left feet. But I wasn't necessarily anything like crazy special. But I just really enjoyed it. And so, 15 years overnight, kind of found myself in Vancouver 2010.
15 years overnight. Yeah. Spoken like a true athlete. I don't know what happened in the middle.
I don't know. I know.
They just kept telling me to go to place to place, and I just kept showing up.
And I've skated a few times in Winnipeg, and let me tell you, it can get cold in this city, but some of my most like formative memories of wins and losses came out of Winnipeg. So I was
all the
hot spots, Red Deer, Alberta, Winnipeg, Saskatoon. Like it's no joke skating outdoors in the prairies of Canada.
Well, I think a lot of people are surprised that you just said outdoors, because I am.
Yeah.
So there's outdoor speed skating tracks.
I mean, actually Calgary, obviously Calgary's indoor. Right. There's an indoor oval that's brand new just outside of Quebec City, which I'm thrilled about, because I think it's going to change the sport for the better in a billion different ways. And then there's an indoor oval up in Fort St. John, but that didn't really exist when I was on the up and up as well. So it was a lot of outdoor skating, and it's tough. Yeah. Like skin suits are thinner than a bathing suit. And so like I've skated at minus 52 in Whitehorse. Like that was like a real thing. I know. It was the most fun ever, but I'm like, oh, that wouldn't happen in 2023.
There's no chance. Yeah. There's no chance. Because that is cool, finding out that we were both at the 07 Canada Winter Games together. That's
like
insane.
A highlight forever.
Honestly, I love it. Because that is one of the coolest destinations to go. If people can get to Whitehorse, it is a hidden gem.
It like anything north of 60 is just, I'm so grateful that I've gotten to go there twice now. And I was just there a few years ago, and the legacy of those games still lives. It's really cool to see what that did to that city. And I'm forever grateful for Whitehorse, because it changed my life.
Oh, I love that. So we're going to get into, obviously, your job now with CBC and why you're here as a keynote speaker, which I'm so excited to hear you speak. But let's dive into you as an athlete, for when you are, realizing that speed skating is something that you are really wanting to pursue at the next level. I know you talk very openly about challenges, hardships that you've faced throughout your career. When did you know that speed skating was your jam? Was there a moment where you're like, damn, these 5'10" legs can get far out there? Got a good stride on me.
I got a good stride, bud. Oh my. You know what? That's a good question, because the answer from other people's perspective would probably be different from mine. It took me a minute to really have confidence in myself. And I would say I didn't really have confidence until I was like 17 or 18 years old.
Wow.
So and I made Vancouver at 20. I was just a baby. But I was born kind of in a golden age of speed skating in Alberta. And so there were 8 women in and around my age, like give or take 2 years, where all 8 of us either made the national team or the Olympics or went on to win Olympic medals. So I was really lucky that I was surrounded by really good friends that were really talented and much better athletes than me in every single way. But they kind of like brought me along, and I was always in the mix. I always liked racing. As I said, I was always competitive, but I was kind of also skated. Like out of those 8, I would be like 6th or 7th or 8th. And it wasn't until I matured a little bit in and around 17, 18, where coming off of a Canada Games silver medal, I was like, oh, okay, this is fun. Like maybe there is something here, And then I qualified for the FISU like university games, which also was a massive, massive stepping stone for me. But I didn't start believing in myself until I was nearly 20 years old. And it's kind of crazy, right? Because now I'm like, oh, that's so wild. Like I do have a little bit of a different story than some people that like, you know, their sport was their vocation. I loved skating, but there were some days where I'm like, no, I don't want to go to practice.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought like, oh, am I ever going to be a champion if that's my relationship with this sport, if that's my outlook?
Right.
That no, I don't like to like run up a hill 8 times for 45 seconds and barf 3 times. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to do that on a Saturday. I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, like probably right before Vancouver.
Wow. That it's interesting because it brings up the whole conversation with you saying like you were surrounded by such amazing women and coaches, you know, that believed in you before you even believed in yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
How crazy is that to think now that you sit and you're traveling, you meet all these incredible people, you've, you know, been in this industry for so long, and it was really right before your first Olympics that you're like, yeah, I can do this. How crazy is that to think about?
It is wild. And it calls into question, right? Like we all have insecurities, and it's so easy to be like, oh, why are you worried about that? Like you're so good, or XYZ, you know, here's the evidence. But if you don't feel it, it's very different. And I wouldn't allow myself to feel that confidence. And really like there's certain races, even post Vancouver, where I thought, oh, wow, like I actually am good at this sport. And I remember like there's a 500 meter in Berlin that I raced. And like in the race, I was like, I think I might be pretty competitive here pretty quick, you know? Like there's these white moments. But yeah, I think I've struggled a little bit with like self-belief. I don't know.
In the race, that's my favorite part of it.
Yeah.
In the race, I'm around in the corner being like, shit, I'm pretty competitive up in here.
That might be good. Yeah, no, but I do. It's a great question, and like I wish I had a really eloquent soundbite for you, but with a little hindsight, I've been retired now for 5 years. Yeah, I have a few regrets. I have a few things where I went, oh, I wish I would have been more myself in that circumstance or that situation. I wish I had the tools that I have now that I didn't have then. And
yeah I think so much about when you get the opportunity to look back on your career and have that experience of being like, okay, well, I learned that there. I didn't realize I was learning it at that time, but that was pretty cool that I learned that. But the thing that I always come back to specifically when it comes to athletes, and I know you interview a lot of athletes, is there's this belief in yourself as a human being. And when that happens, you naturally become a better athlete.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
So it's like we always talk about the skill development of kids and really, you know, pushing them athletically, which don't get me wrong is super important. But it's like we should really be pushing them to where's your happiness?
Yeah.
Where are you happy? Because a happy human is standing on top of a podium.
You said it better than I ever could. Like happiness brings success. Success does not bring happiness. You know, it's the other way around that can get so convoluted. And yeah, we tell ourselves that if you chase, you know, a title or a trophy or a paycheck or a car or whatever, a relationship, like that's when you'll be happy. And it's absolutely the other way around.
Oh, crazy. So what would you say would be the biggest difference from yourself as a person from your first Olympics to your second?
Well, Vancouver 2010, like on the surface, was the greatest ever. I mean, to be a Canadian athlete competing in Canada, I was 20. I didn't understand the specialness of that opportunity. Like I didn't have anything to compare to, right? And I remember Claire Hughes going, do you understand that your first Olympic Games is in Canada as a Canadian athlete? Like, especially a 20-year-old with no pressure, right? Huge. Like it was like,
yeah,
what an Easter egg. But as sexy and as shiny and as fun as it was, I was just so terribly lonely and anxious and confused and unhappy. You know, I really, really could not accept myself. I had come out to myself a few months prior to Vancouver, actually, because I think for so long I was chasing this title of thinking, if I just get to the Olympics, if I can put that label on me, I'm going to not have the struggles or the loneliness that I'm feeling, because I just completely lacked self-love, because I was internally homophobic. Like truly, I didn't have any gay friends. I didn't know what that meant to me or what meant for my future. Like I just was so like paralysis by analysis of everything. And because I really struggled to love myself, no external like fun was going to cure that cancerous lack of whatever. So Vancouver was very different from Sochi, because Sochi I was out. I was publicly out. I was the only athlete from North America to come out in opposition of Russia's anti-LGBTQ laws. That was a bit overwhelming. That was also a bit, I don't know if I can say lonely, but it just felt like there was an elephant in the room everywhere I went. And I didn't think that the Canadian sport landscape was quite ready to have that conversation, to be honest, which sounds wild. Yes. Because it was only in 2014, but we have moved those goalposts. We still got lots of work to do. But yeah, back then, like, I just felt like no one really knew what to do with me. I don't cry myself to sleep over that, but that is the honest assessment, right?
Totally.
Where it's like, I'm giving a little tough love because I think it can make us better. But Vancouver to Sochi, I mean, Sochi, the fact that I stood on that line completely myself, like, that was more impactful than anything I could have done on the ice. And so I was very proud that I feel as though I stood on the right side of history. And because I was being authentic and I was living my values, I felt like I had won regardless of whatever the result was going to be.
And then you go into your race at peace.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was my road to Sochi was real bumpy. It was not sexy in any capacity. I was diagnosed with clinical depression in January 2013. Went on a little SSRI to try and, help my mental health. I was, thoughts of suicide ideation every single day, could not get out of bed. It was brutal. And as much as I was happy that I did go on medication, it was a little bit of a misdiagnosis, because one of the biggest side effects was grossly inhibits motor control, and like my weight just ballooned. So,
yes.
Yeah, it was bumpy. Like I came 27th in Sochi, and I can look you in the eye and say, I wasn't going to win gold, but do I think I was a top 12 skater? Yes.
Yeah.
So 27th wasn't, I mean, on paper, I was like, what the hell? Like, I'm way better than that. But the fact that I came to that line with so much peace, as you said, it had already felt like I'd won.
Oh my God. And well, first and foremost, I think it's important to say thank you for being so open and honest about it, because as much as we do sit here and talk so openly to each other, it is still stigmatized. There's still things that we should be doing better as a society to make sure people know that they are supported, especially athletes, when there's so much pressure on you. And on top of that, so you go through this crazy progression getting to Sochi, then you stand up against Russia. That to me, that is like, anytime you put standing up against Russia at the end of anything, I feel is very badass. I'm going to go and say it's badass, because that is so cool. And, being gay myself, it's like, you look at that with so much admiration. Like, holy man, that's huge. And there was a documentary about it, was there not?
Yeah, there's been a few.
To
Russia with Love. That one was filmed in the lead up to Sochi, and then in Sochi. And then there was another one called Standing on the Line. And I'm just really grateful that anyone wants to engage with me. I find myself real boring. I'm sick of my damn voice. Jesus. But yeah, no, it's cool to know that like that part of my life has been captured in this little time capsule. Like, it's bizarre to be like, oh, I was just a baby there. You know what I mean?
My
God. Yeah.
Little baby getting out there. How?
Yeah.
So you go through this whole process, you stand up and you say this. How was that like going through it in that documentary with other people asking you all those questions with it being so raw and so like, what were those interviews like? And that I'm just super, as soon as I saw it and was reading about it and watched a bit of it, I was like, I got to just see what that atmosphere was like when you talk about your personal experience with it. And then you have to interview in that state. Like,
yeah, it was pretty raw, especially like To Russia with Love. Because I came out in September 2013 and it was honestly a no-brainer. Like I was like, I am a privileged person from Canada. Like I've got 2 great parents. I've got great friends. You know, you zoom out of my life, I'm a very, very lucky human being. And I'm in a country that celebrates acceptance and diversity.
Right.
We still got a long way to go, but like, you know, like as Canadians, we're like, no. Like we celebrate that. And I just thought to myself, oh my God, if I'm struggling this much, where I'm like honestly thinking of taking my own life almost every single day, I can't even imagine a kid that's growing up in Russia or in another country that is linking your orientation to pedophilia, or even a kid that's, you know, perhaps not from the most progressive town. Like I was like, I need to do this for them. So that the actual decision to publicly come out was a no-brainer. I didn't realize perhaps that it would be as big as it was. You know, my face was on most papers in this country, and I was very much chased by the news, and, you know, journalists are calling my 92-year-old grandmother asking for a quote and XYZ. Like I didn't really think that kind of process through.
Right.
And so there was a little bit of a tug of war, because as much as I was very proud to come out and stand on the right side of history and hopefully lend my face and name to anyone that needed to hear it, I also was like, oh, like I don't want this to detract from my process of skating around in a circle.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean, though?
Oh,
like
totally.
I'm like, and the athletic community at this point, right? We're having these conversations about athletes as agents of change and using their voice. Like it's a very different landscape in 2023. But back then it was like, okay, you know, we support you and like, great, but also like you're a speed skater. Why do you need to talk about this?
Yes.
And then on the other hand, the queer community, I do feel like I let them down in some respects, that I didn't do more. I didn't say more, especially at the Olympic Games. But I was grappling with accepting myself even still then, you know. I still have days where I'm like, oh my God, you know, I don't like what I see when I look in the mirror. And so it was just this tug of war, and it was really raw when I was getting interviewed. Because, on one hand, you want to give your voice. And then on another, I'm like, am I the poster child for every lesbian? Like, I'm not, you know? It
just came out.
Yeah. Like, it's not it's not a monolithic community.
Yeah.
And so, I'm happy that I could represent. But then I'm like, gee, I don't have all the right answers. So, it was a bit of a tug of war.
Only the most humble human being would say, I stood up to to Russia in this huge thing, but then also feel like you didn't do enough. That's insane. You did more than enough. You crushed.
Thank you.
It's amazing. So now you work for CBC. Now I watched a highlight of you and your co-anchor.
Signa.
What Siggy. A beauty, Siggy.
Siggy Butler. Right from Halifax, bud. Yeah.
I have never been so entertained watching speed skating than this last little bit. I'm watching that clip where you guys are just losing it. It's awesome.
Thank you.
So was that always a natural transition for you? When you were done speed skating, when you retired and said, I'm good here.
Yeah.
Was it like, but now I'm going to go talk about it. Now I'm going to keep moving. Like, was that natural for you?
Thank you for the lovely compliments. Signa is just
the
biggest
Cheers
beauty ever.
To Siggy.
Cheers to Siggy.
Let's go.
It was. Honestly, when I was in the 7th grade, I was like, I think I want to work in the media after I'm done skating. And now that's a little contradictory, because I admitted to you that I didn't really have confidence until I was like 17 or 18. But even in middle school and junior high, I was like, I like the sports media angle.
Yeah.
I'm also a huge drama nerd. Like I just like being creative. So that was kind of a natural fit. That's what I went to school for. It took me 9 years to get my undergrad because of skating, but no regrets. And I was really, really lucky in the sense that it was like right place, right time, reached out to the right person to get a job with CBC. And, I left speed skating prematurely. Like I was 27 when I retired.
Right.
I've got 2 crappy knees. Left one's real bad. A bad back. Like my body was just falling apart. And I honestly how can you measure this? But I think honestly, my body fell apart so rapidly because of just the stress and anxiety I was holding when I was in the closet. I do think that that's linked. I really believe in, psychosomatic.
Yeah.
But yeah, to just feel like I can lend my voice or my insight or personality or whatever it is to the sport that I love, if that helps get one kid into the sport, it's worth it. Because I know, I think back to Katrina LeMay-Doan, her winning her second Olympic gold medal in 2002, wearing that black cowboy hat. Like that birthed my dream. But Steve Armitage, it was his voice that also birthed my dream. Because I was like, what am I watching right now?
Wow, fascinating.
It's a really powerful, it's a powerful privileged position that I realize I'm in. And so if I can use my voice for good to get anyone into a sport, then that's the greatest gift I could give.
Oh, totally. And you're so right, based off of the sport is one thing. The announcers are like a whole sport within itself.
Yeah.
Because you're right. Who controls the emotion of who allows you to understand? Because a lot of people watching sports, they probably know, enough to find it entertaining. It's the announcer that lets you know when shit's getting real.
100%.
And it's getting fun and,
Yeah. It also, just talking about announcers, huge shout out to Cheryl Pounder. I think she's one of the greatest things to happen to hockey in a long time. We love Pounder.
Huge.
But yeah, you get to dictate some of the emotion. And I know a lot of people probably don't mind watching a speed skating race, but can they tell you why someone is skating faster than the other person? No. Like sometimes I even go, what are they doing so well, right? So if I can just make it a little bit more tangible, then it's amazing. And I think when we talk about women's sports, that upfront investment in presentation just has not been there. And that's like the chicken or the egg. Well, women's sports don't make any money. It's like 70% of men's professional franchises in soccer do not make money.
Yeah.
Like period. Men's sports do not make money, perhaps when they're sold, but like this myth that women's sports can't make money or don't make money, it's hogwash.
Oh, hogwash. Yeah. I love that.
But I think that's kind of the next step is like that initial investment to hopefully have a few, announcers or whatnot just to take the product up a notch.
It's honestly been I get asked that everywhere I go. Well, what do you think it is? What do you think it's going to take? And it's like, well, every single time I've watched somebody watch women's sports specifically, they are entertained. Mm-hmm. Like you even look at, I became a huge WNBA fan watching this. Like they make it so easy to watch it, be a part of it. And Cowie and I looked at March Madness tickets because it was in Minneapolis not that long ago. I think it was last year. And we could not find a seat that was under $1,000.
No.
So we were like mad because we're like, well, damn, we can't go. But then we're like, at the same time, we sat here and we're pumped.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like everybody knows Paige Beckers is going to be in the arena. Everybody knows that all these women are going to be there and it's going to be amazing. So that visibility piece, that being able to watch and connect with female athletes, and how do you do that? Get them on TV.
Yeah, 100%. TV, it's a changing landscape, right? Like streaming and the digital aspect 100%, but you got to have a broadcast deal. Hard stop.
I love that. So what, with CBC, is your job specifically with speed skating? Or what are we up to?
Well, I host a bunch of things, and I'm super grateful for it. I got to host Tokyo and Beijing, and I was on the ground there. Super, super lucky to be obviously on the ground for 2 COVID Olympics. Let me tell you, it was not an easy task. Working in silos, of course, just to keep everyone safe. Everyone knows that COVID wasn't a fun time. Come on.
Nope.
Let's not go back there.
No, that's not. It's not.
Yeah, no, COVID's in our rear view, hopefully.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, speed skating, I do all the color, but host a podcast, Player's Own Voice, where I get to just really chat with a bunch of Canadian and international Olympians, professional athletes, really human first, athlete second. And then a bunch of digital properties, actually. I'm lucky. Like, I'm living the dream. I get to watch sports and talk about sports for a living. So yeah, no, it's been just an amazing adventure. And anytime you retire or transition out of sport, out of anything, it's tough. Like, it's not like my transition was perfect, but I certainly am living a very passion-filled, purpose-filled life, and pretty lucky.
Oh, I love it. So I do want to go to you covering the Olympics. No, let's leave COVID in the rear view, but I do want to give a shout out and have you talk a little bit about the preparation in which it takes to cover the Olympics, because I think we all, as Canadians and as sports fans, we sit on the couch for a month and all we do is drink and eat and we're like, this is incredible. The amount of preparation that goes into understanding the athletes, the sports, the events, when they're happening. You are on the clock all the time. Talk us through the preparation of what
you
can have a sip of beer before you.
Know. Holy moly. I gotta rehydrate. No, it's honestly, it's certainly not a 2-week thing. You essentially dedicate your entire life to that Olympic team, whether it's summer or winter, for 18 months prior to. So we're already deep into Paris prep. And your actual hours when you're at the Olympics, a heavy day would be 21 hours, light day 18. So yeah, I mean, the magic of TV to see 45 seconds of television it's bonkers. And I mean, it's again, like I'm super passionate, so I'm never going to complain, but you just, especially when you're an athlete, like you have no clue, because you have to be so self-absorbed and self-centered. You really do at that level. It's a very you would know, like if you've played it at the highest level, and you have to just be so in your own little world that you don't even take a minute and think what the media does to prepare. But let me tell you, like, the easiest job at the Olympics is being an athlete. It's hard to qualify, but then once you're there, like you're just competing and like snapping. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, it's nice. Coaches, I got to give a huge shout out to. I mean, even when I was skating, I was like, well, what? Like my coach just makes the program like, okay, we're going to skate 8 laps and then 7 and then 6. Like how hard can that be?
Right.
Coaches literally go to bed at like midnight, get up at 6. Like it's not a job, it's a lifestyle. So lots of people behind the scenes that make it work.
Because I always think of when like you see the small little snippets of like somebody jumps on and you're right, 45 seconds. But in that 45 seconds, they've given you like a year's worth of memorization and preparation. And this athlete won this in this tournament or whatever. It's like, that's all memorization. Like it's all stuff that you just need to know because it's all happening right in front of you. It's madness. Yeah. Yeah. So that was probably in itself a huge challenge, I guess, in a different way. Athletes, it's very physical, mental. This is like very almost studious in a way. You become a huge nerd, hey?
Yeah, you do. And like, I didn't realize it until my partner was a soccer player, of course, Diana Matheson. And like, she'll be like, you know more about the Olympics and like modern pentathlon than anyone, you know? And I'm like, all right, like that's a huge, all the kind of those fringe sports that we don't see until the Olympics. It's a huge passion point. And yeah, it's like my sport now. You just got to keep repeating.
I love
and
that.
You're never as good as you think you are. You're never as bad as you think you are. Like I've had a few bad weekends, but the good outweighs the bad, and I keep grinding.
I love it. So you mentioned your fiance, Diana Matheson. So she's no rookie in the sports world. She's had her time in the sun. Holy man. Yeah. She is, and not only does she have an incredible playing career, she's doing a ton behind the scenes to keep women's soccer in the forefront. She's amazing. So do you want to just touch on a little bit of what she's doing sum up the crazy amount that she's doing.
The love of my life. She's like almost like annoying because she's actually 10 times smarter than she was athletic. Like she's truly like, I'm like, how do you have so much talent? And even in the areas that you don't have talent, you have this amazing work ethic. Like I am just so eternally grateful that she is in my life, and she truly is my soulmate. Like we just balance each other out so well. Like our weirdness matches each other, you know, like just little things where it's like in the pandemic, we got into doing these little nano blocks. Like it's like little mini Lego from Japan. And then I was in Japan and I got a bunch from anyways. Yeah. Like
I love it.
It's just in every category. We're so lucky that we found ourselves because, truly she is my partner in life. And I'm so proud of her. I mean, she's really reminded me that one person can make a big difference, you know? Yeah. I don't want to say change the world because that kind of sounds almost cliched, but really so often we overlook our own agency. And if it was easy, anybody would do it. And, she's just started some conversations that have perhaps not been started in the past. And for that, I'm just so proud of her vision and her work ethic and how she treats people. And obviously the face and brains behind Project 8, who building a women's professional soccer league here. So,
just casually, hey? Just quickly, just going to skedaddle over, build a women's league and I'll be back.
Yeah.
That's insane.
No, but like, it's truly like, she's on the phone, 14 hours a day. Like it's not easy. Yeah. And just to see her drive and her gumption, right? Like she's like, no, we got to do this because this is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
It could inspire anyone, even folks that aren't into soccer. Like I'm just so proud of her that she's bringing about a change that I think is long overdue. And I hope that it changes a bunch of sports, not just soccer.
I love it. Cheers to Diana.
Cheers to Dee.
Oh, let's go. That's fantastic because she is doing incredible work and is very much noticed. Everyone notices it for sure. She's doing fantastic work. So for you two, she's doing her work. You are working at CBC. What does a casual conversation look like at home? Are you guys just analyzing sports till sun up to sundown? Or?
So in one way, yes, because it's like the left ventricle of our lives. Like it will never not be a part of what we do and how we see the world and what we're passionate about. But we're also like at times like it's so easy to just be like, no sport talk.
Yeah. Time out. Quick little TO here.
Yeah. So I think we do have a really good balance about that. Like we're not like statisticians. Like we're not like memorizing the back of hockey cards. You know what I mean? But it's so dear to our hearts. And most of our friends are athletes.
Totally.
So yeah, like when a Steph Labbe comes into town and she's staying in our guest room, like, I don't know. I guess sports comes up. Yeah. We also have a few beers. Like we're very normal that way. But
I love it.
Yeah,
I mean, through town.
Yeah, they're always so many friends. They're always through town. No.
Yeah.
Lots of people come through Toronto, and I'm very proud to say, our house is our guest room gets used quite a bit. So
I love that.
Keep
That's
good company.
Awesome.
Yeah,
that is awesome. So. Now you're here in Winnipeg. Mm-hmm. You're in Peg City.
Peg City, baby.
What are you doing here? Let's talk about it.
Yeah, doing a little speech for Sport Manitoba. I had the privilege of hosting their leadership series this year. Got to speak with a bunch of beauties like yourself. And Winnipeg, it's got a special part of my heart because some of the most formative moments in my career and growing up as a little speed skater happened here, right? You think of all the legacy of the sport in this city. It's alive and well, and it's good to be back. It's minus 22 out.
Yeah,
it's all right. I brought my big coat.
That's right.
But this is the honest thing. We got to go to a pharmacy after because I'm wearing open-toed shoes tonight, bud, and the dogs need a fresh coat of paint. You know what I mean?
I got you. We'll hit it up.
Who do I think I am? Like I'm like, what? Why am I wearing stilettos in Winnipeg in March?
I love it. Absolutely love it. And it's amazing that you were a part of it was Bison lead her ship,
Yes. Yeah.
which I think is fantastic. And you hosted a bunch of series with a bunch of people from all across the country. And it was about how do we do this? How do we do the damn thing? How do we make women's sports bigger? How do we make it more accessible for people? And throughout your whole process with it, I think there was 4 sessions you said?
Yes.
Was there anything that stood out to you? Like, was there, because you've met people from high and low, you've been everywhere.
Oh, I mean, it was phenomenal. Like every single conversation we had, safe sport is a topic that is on everyone's frontal lobe and is a very difficult thing to talk about. And so, Allison Forsyth, just hearing her lived experience and knowledge now, like I just think she's a hero in this country. But I also think like when you say, how are we going to do it? Like do the damn thing. It's just so important to get athletes back into the system, whether it's like in coaching or officiating or even just sitting on boards. Like how do we ensure that athletes that are transitioning out, whether it's through retirement, after a great career or after a crappy experience, whichever, what can we do to try and maintain people coming back into the system and trying to make it better? Because I think a struggle that we have is like stagnation. A lot of folks go from NSO to NSO to NSO. And I just think, it's like that time has passed. It's 2023 and not much has changed since Title IX. And it's time for change.
I'm so happy you bring that up because I could not agree with you more. I'm still very heavily involved with minor sports in the city. And a dad came and talked to me and I looked at him and I said, I'm exhausted of this conversation. I remember this conversation when I was young. Yeah. I'm not having it. I'm not having it anymore. If this is still a question, then there's a bigger problem. So it's the stagnation piece of it. I think you're bang on. And Cowie and I did an episode for Title IX because it's monumental. And I look up to Billie Jean King like Mount Rushmore is Billie Jean King in my opinion. Yeah. She is just fantastic. And you think about what she did and how hard she pushed and stuff. And a lot of the girls that I coach and are looking to really pursue athletics at the high levels, they're almost like enough. Like everyone keeps on talking about breaking the ceiling. They're like, there is no ceiling for me anymore to break. Like stop it. So I think with you saying that, I completely agree. Like it's time to stop acting like we still should just be grateful to be here. Like enough is enough. We got to quit it. We have to be able to move on. And so that women and younger athletes feel like it's there. Because if you keep on saying, be the one that breaks it, it's like we've had the one. Yeah. The one is gone, one and done. We've recognized them. They're there. It's all good. Be a part of it. Mm-hmm. And so it's fascinating, that stagnation piece, because I could not agree with you more.
Yeah. All I can say is like, I hope that people can be inspired and perhaps have a little more pep in their step or confidence with whatever, they're trying to overcome in women's sports when they look at stats like, okay, the NWSL, when you wanted to buy a franchise when the NWSL was launching, it was about $150,000 American. 10 years later, 11 years later, these franchises are selling for $50 million. So like those numbers, if that doesn't make your hair stand on, like you're missing the point. Like these numbers do not lie. And I don't know about you, but like even at like when someone will slip in my DMs or like tweet at me like no one watches women's sports, it doesn't even upset me anymore because I'm like, oh my God, like okay, like have a nice life. Like it does not even affect me because I'm like, you are so missing the point that it's just I'm totally over it.
Yeah, me too. I couldn't couldn't agree more. When we first launched Beauties and then it was all this, and we're like, we're not even having that conversation. We're not even having it because it's done. It's time to move on. It's because you're bang on 50 mil. Like, people love talking about money when it comes to sports. Like, if you want to get into the nitty gritty of it, you can look at the NWSL, you can look at the WNBA, you can look at these incredible leagues, and they're not making, like, the money is there, the personalities are there, everything is set in place. I think it's just us talking about it more.
Yeah.
So
100%.
With that, thank you so much for coming to talk to me today.
Dude, thank you. This is a lovely little day of work. Well, it wasn't work. God, Beers with Beauties, come on.
This is amazing. And I know you've got a speech tonight, and I wish you the best of luck, my friend.
Yes,
I cannot wait.
I'm just going to keep locking eyes with you.
Yes, that's right.
Like, okay, Addie.
Keep moving around the room. But I appreciate you. I appreciate everything that you're doing. For you to take the time to chat with me, it truly means a lot. And so with that, the official cheers. Do you have to crack your last beer, or are you still rocking there? Do it. Baby, what a crack. Oh my gosh.
Boom.
Cheers, buddy.
Cheers,
Thank you
buddy.
so much for coming to the Beauties Sports Desk.
Thank you. This has been a pleasure.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. And we'll see you next week.